Hello there beautiful, welcome back to my channel. My name is Joesephyr and welcome to the last Should You Pull video for Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia of 2021. Now we're seeing out this year with a bit of a bang as we get a brand new BT unit in Machina who gets reworked and gets some pretty hefty damage added on. We get Shantotto coming back with her BT+, which is less exciting, honestly. And we also get Paine coming along as well with her LD that finally elevates her into the current reign of damage dealers, buffers, debuffers, kind of a bit of everything. In fact, Paine's a little bit of a weird one. So let's go in and take a look at her kit as well as everything else and the event that's going to come along with them. So as always, if all that stuff is stuff you're interested in, then stay tuned and keep on watching. Now before we get started, of course, don't forget to check out all of my social media links down below, including Twitter, Twitch, Discord, and Patreon. Over on Twitch, I will be streaming this event as it goes live on New Year's Eve, as well as pretty much every other Dissidia Opera Omnia event as it goes live, as well as loads of Final Fantasy XIV, other Final Fantasy products, and sometimes we throw some fighting games into the mix as well. Over on Patreon, I do always shout out one of my patrons every time I release a new video, and today that person is going to be Cowpoke Kale, who is brand new to my Patreon, so a massive thank you goes out to you. And I believe you're the first person that has Waka in your title card, so a big thank you goes out to you for supporting the channel and to all of my patrons, as without you guys, I wouldn't be able to have this channel at the level at which it's at. So honestly, massive appreciation goes out to you. And as I've said previously, in the next day or so, I will have an update video for the channel going forward, as there are going to be some changes made to the way that I present my information, both for Dissidia and for other things, so you have that to look forward to as well. And then finally, don't forget to check out all of the other content creators and resources out there for Dissidia Opera Omnia, with special mentions going out to Mediu and Leo Bob for their translations over on Reddit, Tonbridge Droop for their infographics, DissidiaCompendium.com for their fantastic information, DissidiaDB.com, DissidiaInfo.com. There's loads of resources out there and I encourage you to check them all out. So as always, let's go into the banners themselves and take a look at what's on offer. Now we have two banners that we're going to be talking about today, and the first of which is going to be a returning banner with Shantotto, her EX LD BT. It's also going to contain Waka LD as well, and then Edge EX is there as well for reasons to fill out the banner. And then the second banner is going to feature Machina's full kit. His LD, however, has already been released before, so we get a different brand new LD in Paine, and then obviously we get Machina's BT as well. And Leo is actually going to get his C80 here as well, so he being the last character to really get one before we move into C90, but again, EX is there for general purposes. So, first things first, I want to take a look at Shantotto. Now, Shantotto is an unfortunate character in many ways, in that she was never amazing to begin with. Like, she has her uses, like her LD makes it so that your enemy is guaranteed paralysis, heavy defense reductions, and she can do a decent amount of damage as well. And she does actually get a short rework here, where she'll get some additions to bio, so you get a bit more damage out of that because it's a double HP dump as opposed to a single one, which was always a problem with it before. And then Aero basically just changes her max brave up to be a framed buff that gives a bit of attack and her max bravery up. You do get a bit of a rework to her LD board as well, where you get an extra use of Salvation Scythe, which is nice, taking it up to 4 uses total. And then you get a Cursed Gaze on the enemies to begin with, and you get 2 HP dumps and some elemental weakness damage up added to her rage ability. And then she has her BT plus as well, which is fine. Like, it's okay, I guess, but you get elemental weakness damage, party brave damage cap up, which then goes up to match up with what Kuja's does, and you get party dark enchant as well. So it's actually very similar to Kuja's in certain ways, being an enchant based one that increases brave caps. The difference is that Kuja has party-wide buffs outside of his BT effect, such as having the Holy Imperil on top of it, a lot of the attack buffs from his Melodies of Life, that sort of bits and pieces. And while Shantotto gets Omni Imperil from her EX, she doesn't really fit into what she's trying to give when it comes to her BT effect. And I use Kuja as a comparison point, and a lot of people don't particularly like Kuja's BT plus either. So if you don't particularly like that, you're not going to like this one either. And it's sad because, well, like I said in Kuja's video, there are certain characters that just seem to get shafted over and over again, and Shantotto is definitely one of those characters. Now, Machina is also getting a rework at a BT Plus, where he didn't have a BT at all before, which is a lot more exciting than Shantotto's is. Now, if you haven't used Machina before, his typical sort of run is that he has a follow-up attack after using his LD. He was one of the first kind of characters to get LD boards that allowed him to do extra damage with follow-up attacks after everything, but as time's gone on, his damage has kind of fallen to the wayside, and he gets a lot of instant turns by way of his Awakening, and then his LD is instant turns, and then obviously you're getting follow-ups during each of these, so the damage all adds up. And his rework adds 2 uses to Awakening, so you get more out of that, and because you get a free skill use off of his LD as well, then you get like a nice string of attacks after that, and you also get some brave hits, doesn't add to turn count, and you get some additional extras added to his HP plus, which is Furious Blades, which, trust me, it's okay, it's got a couple HP dumps in it, but it's really not the reason you're using Machina. Furious Blades is the reason, but not because of this. And then Cyclone Drive is a largely uninteresting attack, which is just giving him his generic attack buffs. It now has 2 HP dumps and some splash damage on it, and that's kind of it. But the LD board itself also gets a rework as well, where you get more HP damage, more bravery gained, and you get more brave damage dealt up as well. All nice stuff. And then follow-up attacks also now trigger after enemy turns, and they're afflicted with the LD debuff that you get that allows the follow-ups in the first place. Now, Machina's BT does allow, it's selfish in a similar way to Jagran, but it allows for a lot more damage than Jagran's did. So, Illuminating the Future is a double HP dump in a bravery attack, or in a burst attack, which we appreciate, and then you get party HP damage up, party max brave cap up, party stolen and gain brave overflow, and you get more of the overflow from the BT plus effect, and then you also get a new attack that comes off of it, and you also have to basically gain stacks of it, but all it is that requires it is for Machina to attack, which he does a lot of anyway. So you get access to Furious Blades Burst. Furious Blades Burst, which is something you can use while your BT is active, is a 2-hit brave HP attack that hits 7 times, extends his buffs by a turn, and also recovers bravery. So basically it's like a Seraphic Star or a Meteor Crusher, but in an HP attack that you're also getting the Spiral's Linchpin follow-up on afterwards. Now if you set this up correctly, you can do a lot of damage with this attack. So the sorts of things that I would typically see come from Machina are he'd use his BT attack only, and then you get Selfie or Kate Sith or somewhere or Iroha or something like that that restores bravery. Selfie allowing you to get launches during the BT phase, and then immediately while you still have the BT effect active from the BT attack only, you'd then go into Machina's BT phase and just spam this button until they fall down. You're looking at between 1 and 2 million damage per shot whenever you do this, and you're just going to rinse through bosses. Machina largely requires his BT. If you're going to use him from this point, yes, the rework is all nice and helpful, but if you're using him, this attack is why. You are using him for Furious Blades. Yes, you'll get some free attacks off from other things, but every turn you have that burst effect up, you want to be using this move. And then, of course, we have Paine. Now, Paine is a very unique character, but she does ultimately do things similarly to other characters. It's just done in a very different way, but the way in which it's done makes her very flexible. So she actually gets a rework as well. So Break Attack and Black Sky now have additional HP dumps added onto them. Splash damage, you get extra uses, very typical kind of rework stuff when it comes to that. So you get Status Break off of these, so you get a nice sort of framed debuff that does a little bit of everything, and Paine makes herself stronger with her EX, restores skill uses, all that shebang. But what we're here to talk about is this LD. So Paine's LD is really weird in that it does different things depending on where you are within the party. So the actual attack itself is a multi-HP dumping attack that does more damage to enemies that have status break on them, just like most of her other stuff. It does splash damage, it gives her stacks of her dress sphere offensive buff, so you can ramp that up nice and quickly, and as long as you have the LD equipped, you get full throttle as a special effect, which will always give Paine full crit rate, so always hits for crits, HP damage up based on number of debuffs, so pairing her up with other debuffers is pretty nice. And you also get more damage up when you're attacking things with status break on them, which is her primary debuff. Now, depending on where she is in your party, whether she's in the left, the middle, or the right, we will get different things. And I actually have, by way of Rem, over on DissidiaDB.com, a lovely infographic set to show you guys that I can hope will make this a bit clearer. So, right throttle, as long as you have characters next to Paine and they are on her right-hand side, then you've got more buffs that you deal with those characters in order to increase the level of full throttle, which can go up to 5 levels if you have one character to her right, 10 if both of them are to her right. So if she's in the center, you'll get benefits from both left and right. If she's all the way on your left, you'll only get benefits from the right, but they're stronger, and vice versa. So what you get if you have 2 characters that provide buffs on her right, then you get Brave damage dealt up by 60% at max level, which is a lot. Brave recovery, so gains, up by 40%, and Brave and gain overflow up by 40% as well. 40% brave gains without a BT effect is a lot. But obviously you then need to pair her up with other characters that are granting at least 2 buffs in order to level the full throttle up each time. Now if we go on the other extreme, when we go to the left throttle, as long as you have 2 debuffers on the other side of you that inflict multiple debuffs at once, then you can get levels up on full throttle that way, towards the red side, so debuffing side. And at max capacity, so 10 levels, you'll get 50% brave damage dealt down, 50% brave recovery down, and 50% HP damage up taken. So this all adds up to a lot of very powerful effects that you can use. If you wanted to, you can go the more balanced route. Have a buffer on one side and a debuffer on the other. So that way you get 30% brave damage dealt up, 20% recovery up, 20% overflow up, and then on the enemy, you get 25% brave damage dealt down, 25% brave recovery down, and 25% HP damage taken up. So you can take a more balanced approach as well. So you need to be making sure your party is built to level those full throttle stacks up. So if they are a buffer, then they need to be doing buffs, at least 2 buffs every time that they act, so that you can get the full effect of full throttle, whether it's 5 or 10. Depending on where they are in correlation to Paine, and the same applies to debuffers. So she does best when she's with characters that do a lot of damage but also happen to do a lot of buffing or debuffing at the same time. So there are characters she doesn't work very well with, but by and large she is arguably one of the most flexible characters that is available to us in Dissidia Opera Omnia. Now, call abilities wise, only Paine is actually going to be getting anything new here. Shantotto call is still pretty useful though for inflicting that Salvation Scythe debuff, so you get the big defense drop of 50% and the guaranteed paralysis all in a single debuff, so you might still want to use her on occasion for a call ability. Machina is pretty much just raw damage, so you're likely not going to be using him for just LD calls or anything like that, because there are characters that deal a lot more damage like Ida or Tifa that can do that job for you. But Paine does actually inflict the status break effect when she comes in, as it's part of her EX, and then she also, as part of her LD, which I failed to mention earlier, cleanses all debuffs from party and dispels all buffs from enemies all at the same time, so that's actually very useful in a call ability as well. And then you get the multi HP dump, you get status break, and you also get crit rate up 100%, and you also get brave damage up and a brave overflow up when you're attacking an enemy that has status break on, which they'll have because you called Paine. So it's not a bad call ability either. With regards to Paine or all of these characters, it's going to be a very choice sort of selection. Paine is an extremely versatile character thanks to the complicated way in which her kit works, but it doesn't ever not do anything. That's the thing to bear in mind. As long as you build around what Paine does, she's actually very, very good in lots of different situations. If you're using a Brave Gain team, she's useful. If you're using a Brave Damage / Gain character like Varn or Machina, of course, she's really good. If you're using her next to characters that like to debuff a lot but deal a lot of damage at the same time, she's really good, and she'll last through to C90 era because of it, and when she does get a C90, she gets even better, of course. Machina, similarly, yes, he's the last kind of BT character that we're aware of course, global exclusives or anything, inbound possibly. He does do a lot of damage, considering he's the last one. So if we're going to be leaving the C80 era behind in favour of C90, where the stat increases are much higher and damage output is also very high, then these are characters you might want to at least have a look at. So now let's take a look at the event that comes along with these banners, and we're going to be looking at a raid here containing Elvoret, which you may recognise from Final Fantasy VIII. Unfortunately, this Lufenia Plus is also a little bit of a joke. Like, we've had some really easy ones, and that trend is only going to get more the case. This event has a Lufenia orb, and it is reduced, or it is increased, sorry, by having a character that extends their buff duration. So something like Machina. There are other characters that can do it. Like, if you want other characters that can do it to your party, you have characters like Saz, Aiko, Hope, Yuna. If you have Ida, then Ida's HP plus or triple plus does it. Afmal can do it. There's loads of characters that can extend their own buffs for reasons, so there's not going to really be a problem with regards to that. But even if you don't do it, you're not going to suffer all that much, because it's not an ability that kills you. All it actually does is remove all of their debuffs, reduce your party's bravery by half, and maxes out their Tower's Dark Wings buff, which is something that they granted themselves. We've fought them before and they do this, and at max stacks what they get from this is 25% extra HP damage, complete debuff evasion, attack plus 100%, and then while it's active you get minus 100% initial bravery, minus 100% defense, and max bravery. So while your bravery takes a bit of a beating, what doesn't take any kind of beating is your attack stat and your enemy's defense stat. So yes, you probably do want to make sure that you have somebody that can extend buffs to make sure that it doesn't go off, because it's going to make your life a lot easier, but you don't have to do it. And then past that, it's going to be another 0 boss turn run, more than likely, especially if you're using Machina. If you're using Machina, like, I would just take any kind of sort of supporting damage dealer that maybe can extend buffs, something like I said, Hope, or you could take Selfie or something like that. Something with, like, Selfie doesn't extend buffs realistically, but she can use her launch capabilities to just churn out so much damage that you don't even have to look at the orb, let alone worry about what it's going to do if it goes off. Past that, that's pretty much it. That's all I really have to say about the matter. Just 0 boss turn it, because it's the easiest way and the path of least resistance. And now, of course, we have Would You Pull, the section of the video where you, the viewer, get your chance to let your voice be heard and tell everyone whether you would or wouldn't pull on any given banner and why that might be the case. So as always, huge thank you goes out to all of my patrons for casting their votes and their comments on both of these banners, and we'll go straight into it. Shantotto is probably not going to shock anybody. 4% of people said that we're going to use gems here. 4% of people said that we're going to use 100 or more tickets. Nobody said less than 100 tickets. And then a whopping 91% of people, between whether they weren't interested or whether they already had it, weren't going to be putting on this particular banner. And Shantotto is just a bit sad, to be honest, because she just doesn't have anything that really sticks out that makes her amazing. Like, if I were to get her BT in a free pull, I probably wouldn't green it or even use Shantotto all that much, because I just have better characters that I could use for her. And then with Machina, quite the opposite is the case, where 55% of people said that they're using gems here for Machina or Paine, 38% of people said they were using 100 or more tickets, and only 6% of people were willing to even use less than 100 tickets or not pull at all. So this one is obviously a much more hype one. I honestly don't know where I stand with this banner, purely because a damage dealing character is what I am missing most weirdly. Like somebody that can deal a lot of damage in a short space of time, because all of my characters that do that are characters like Vayne that do, you know, damage across a large number of turns, or characters like Kuja and Bart who are more supporting roles. So I'd love to get Machina BT. But I did just drop 400 tickets on Fran Heldy and not get it. So I will be a little bit burned about spending on anything right now. And C90, there are a lot of characters that will shine when it comes to damage. That being said, I may just BT token Machina and then be done with it once his batch is finished, because we only actually have to worry about that for a week, because his batch kind of all comes out at once, because we don't know what's coming after the 10th. Anyways, let's go into some comments. Ferntendo says pulling gems for Machina and Paine. Even though Machina may be the last before C90, he definitely has the power to make up for it. With his rework, his BT's HP, burst attack, he can keep up with the upcoming era for a while longer. Plus, getting Paine along the way would be nice. She seems like a fun character to build around as well, plus she deserves it for helping me so much through the earlier eras. Paine was one of the old school 35 CP legends when EXs were becoming a thing, and she was generally really cool, and her EX was like okay, and the EX Plus was like okay. And then, but a lot of people I've seen have used Paine, despite the fact that she's not fantastic, But so it's nice to see that now people can use her and she'd be really good for quite some time. Now Theon says Machina can hit for 1 million damage. I sleep. Paine changes her auras based on her party position. Realness. It's gems for Paine. Paine has been a favourite over meta pick for me in the past, earning purple ingots from me in a wholly underwhelming EX Plus state. Now she comes with a rework she's desperately needed for so long and a really interesting LD, and I'm here for it. I enjoyed using Machina when it first landed, and with this new BT and rework, he's going to be a star. His BT is very much a I may green it if I get it, but I'm not going to chase it situation. I have everything on Shantotto and Waka's banner, but even if I didn't, it's an easy skip. Waka was good, not great, even when he arrived, and he gets nothing here, so he continues to languish. His core can be situationally useful, but it's definitely not a top tier ability today. Shantotto has been consistently underwhelming in OO. They keep giving her things and she keeps underperforming. She's a serious rework in the future, and sadly, I don't think it's coming. So like I said earlier, I would love to see in the comments characters that you guys think just consistently seem to not perform well. The first character that comes to mind when I think of that is Thancred. That poor man just comes out consistently, and even looking to the future, he just gets swept under the rug every time. And honestly, quite a lot of 14 characters suffer from this as well. Like, while Papalimo and Ida LDs certainly have their shining moments, they've never really been must-have characters, and I'd love to see more from that. Anyways, going further, Luca Yush says go for 100 or 200 tickets for Paine LD. I already have Machina and I'll be willing to BT token his weapon at the end of his batch if I don't get it. Paine, however, is an interesting unit to say the least. Using her adds a little more depth to team planning via where you place her, and it'd be fun to experiment with her. She's a versatile character because of this, however, she'll basically do the same thing no matter which side you place her on, be it all in different ways. The main reason I'm putting on this banner is because of the fun factor they should provide me. Paine for her placement gimmick, and Machina because I like characters who have follow-up attacks and the damage is a nice bonus. That's kind of where I'm at, I think. Like, I would love to get Paine because she's unique, because she's weird, she does weird things, and I know I said left and right and probably got it wrong at least once in this video, but the infographics should help out with that, so if I do, I apologise, but I don't know my left from my right when I'm walking somewhere, so forgive me. But she looks cool, she's really interesting, she's got really powerful buffs as well, like 40% brave gains is not something to sniff at, nor is 60% like bravery damage, or 50% HP damage extra. It's a lot, and while she can't do it all at once, or at least not to the strengths that she might want to, there's a lot to play around with there, and she does seem really fun. Markin is actually a character I did use a fair amount when his LD first came out, so I would like to get his BT, and his costume is badass, so I'm like, BT tokens, pulling, I just don't know yet. And then finally, Neo Anima says, Machina BT Plus as a fan is a must for me, so going gems here. Paine is a character I really like, and her kit just makes me want her even more, given how diverse and fun strategies you can build around her buff and debuff shenanigans. Given how I'm at a point where I think hardest content has become common coin, and I've lost most of that early Lufenia era enthusiasm, I can't think of a better banner to regain it. I'm actually really pleased that someone has said this when it comes to Lufenia. I am starting to become really disappointed in the events themselves. I hope that we do get something global exclusive when it comes to the anniversary. Not because I necessarily care about like getting a new character that's all shiny and brand new, because I want content that's actually engaging and difficult. Like, we have had some really difficult ones, but these last few weeks, it's just been zero boss turn, make sure you use Sid Mal, Bart's, like, Dimensions End, sure, that was really difficult, and I like that content because I like to be challenged, because I like the game to challenge me. I do not enjoy having to make my own challenges just to enjoy the game. The game should be doing that job for us, but each to their own. Maybe you guys like the fact that it's way easier now than it was before. Sound off in the comments below and let me know, but I'm really glad that somebody brought it up that wasn't me. So now let us ask the question, should we be pulling for Machina, Paine, or Shantotto, or even Waka? In Shantotto's case, I think it's a fairly easy no here, unless you really love Shantotto, and I know that a lot of people do. I really like Shantotto, but she's so consistently underwhelming that it almost feels like an insult to the character. She's providing buffs that are similar to another character that people didn't look particularly favourably on in Kuja, but without all the party benefits that he provides outside of the BT effect. And her damage is okay, but it's definitely not up to the par of like Machina, who is on the banner next to her. So if you're going to be pulling for one or the other and you want damage, there's an obvious choice there. If you're wanting to pull for a support character who can provide decent buffs and debuffs, there's another option, and they're both on the same banner. So honestly, it saddens me, but Shantotto to me is likely relegated to just an LD call spot. And Machina I'll get the negatives out of the way first. Machina is a fantastic damage dealer. We're about to go into C90 era and the anniversary. Everyone is a fantastic damage dealer from that point. Trust me, there are loads of them. If they have a BT, they're probably a really good damage dealer. So we're looking at Locke, we're looking at Tidus, we're looking at Noel, we're looking at Zac, Ramza, there's loads. Noctis, Cloud, there's tons and tons and tons of really powerful BT characters going forward. And given the way that Square's doing this weirdness with the timeline, we haven't had Lightning BT return, we haven't had Vanille come up. I'm wondering if there's likely to be a BT cycle that's like Global First, and that's why they're smushing everything together. Because I think because they've skipped certain banners, that's possible. So that might be a reason for you to perhaps wait on Machina before you sort of shotgun those BT tokens or your gems at him. Paine is really cool. Like, there's no two ways about it. Paine's really cool. She's weird, she's quirky, she's like pairs up with loads of different characters in loads of different ways. She's exactly the kind of character that I really enjoy, and had I not just blitzed a load of tickets into the void, then I'd probably be going much heavier here than I would normally. Although I'm still considering gems, honestly, because I am actually lacking a damage dealer that works like Machina does, so if I can get his BT, I'll be absolutely over the moon about it. But with C90, probable global first coming out, my advice is, even if I don't necessarily follow it myself because I know I can be a nightmare, maybe wait and see. There's only a week's worth of stuff before the 10th comes around that you'll be able to at least know what's coming. So if you're happy to wait, then maybe your prudence and patience will pay off. So that's going to be all for today's video, and that's pretty much a wrap on 2021 for Dissidia Opera Omnia and the Should You Pull videos for it. So massive happy new year to all of you if I don't see you on stream or anything before that. I have got updates, I've got loads of stuff coming, and it's all really exciting stuff. It's going to help with the consistency of my videos, it's going to help with diversifying my videos. There's loads to look forward to, and I encourage you to keep an eye out on the channel by clicking that subscribe button if you haven't already. Thank you very much for any updates that I plan on doing. Other than that, do like the video if you've enjoyed what you've seen today, and perhaps show other people who haven't maybe played Dissidia Opera Omnia as well. And in that place, I will bid you farewell and wish you once again a happy new year. Thanks everyone, I'll see you soon. Take care.